CARE was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest Hamas funding trial in our nation's history. CARE was named as a Muslim Brotherhood proxy. CARE is very upset that Anwar al-Awlaki was killed. Now the problem that I have with Anwar al-Awlaki, now I have blogged on him for years. I know exactly who and what he is. He is a spiritual leader to religious and devout Muslims. The fact that, again, you see, they always say, we don't know what happened to him. He was a lovely boy. And the neighbor said, oh, wonderful neighbor. A lovely boy who, what happened? He became religious. That's what happened to him. So here you have Obama. Now, you can, you know, here you have Obama going in, killing this man. And at the same time, you have Major Nidal Hassan, the Fort Hood jihadi, who made a presentation on Grand Rounds, came out on Grand Rounds, a brilliant PowerPoint presentation on jihad. I use it sometimes if there's a machine. Who was wearing the garb of the Shaheed the morning of his jihad, who was giving out Qurans the morning of his jihad, who was screaming Allahu Akbar while he mowed down 13, and there was a pregnant woman, 14 of our soldiers, and wounding 32 more. And by the way, Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater. Allah is greater. Greater than what? Greater than your God. Yeah. Just so that you understand what they're saying. And the Obama administration won't release the evidence on Major Hassan. Here's a jihadi who killed American soldiers, who's still getting paychecks, and the 2 civilians, the 2 cops that took him down, have been laid off. But he's going over there, and he's killing Anwar al-Awlaki and Samir Khan. Samir Khan was a jihadist blogger, is what he was. He came out with the slick magazine Al Qaeda. Not saying that it was wrong to kill them. You know how I feel. You know who I am. But I'm saying you want to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in a New York court, foreign born, give him all the constitutional rights afforded to an American citizen and his merry band of killers. This, he's putting his foot down. He wants to prosecute our CIA agents that got the information. Three terrorists were waterboarded. 3. Saved Los Angeles, a terrorist attack of thousands. But you want to give them a due process, but you're going and you're just killing over there. I want to understand the epistemology. I want to understand the premise. I want to understand what is the policy. The Department of Defense issued the report on the Fort Hood jihadi. In not one report, the final included, was religious motivation, ideology, or motive mentioned. Not once. How are you going to defeat an enemy that you are afraid to name? On the anniversary of 9/11, the President of the United States issued guidelines to official ceremonies both here and abroad, specifically directing these various commemorative ceremonies, not to mention Al-Qaeda, not to mention religious motivation, not to mention ideology. Okay, this is 10 years after 9/11. But a day later, he issued a specific and credible threat. From who, Mr. President? Mickey Mouse? When I was a kid in school, I learned about December 7th, I learned about Pearl Harbor Day, I learned that we were a nation united in our resolve to defeat the enemy. And 10 years after December the 7th, the Germans and the Japanese were vanquished. 10 years after 9/11, they're instituting in the school curriculums a 9/11 lesson. And it's all about service. It's all about healing. It's all about reconciliation. Nowhere is the enemy mentioned. Think about this. And all across the colleges were, what are you doing for service? It's a day of service. It's all about service. What are you doing for service? Excuse me? Look, service is a fine thing, but not on 9/11. 9/11 is our day of mourning. A terrible day in American history. We must never forget those people choosing between being burned to death or flinging themselves out of windows. Hundreds hit the ground with a sound you will never forget. Never forget. Before 9/11, I was not political. Wasn't. I was utterly free and happy. New York City career girl, always watching the Fashion Channel. I love that. And then 9/11, I stood on a dock and I watched those buildings burn. And while those buildings were burning, everything I had thought, that my premise was shattered. Because I had assumed my freedom. Assumed it, like the air I breathe. I never thought America wasn't forever. Not for a second. Did you?
Never.
Well, it's not. And you won't like what comes after America. Not at all. The Islamization of America is imposing Islam on the secular marketplace. What do I mean by that? The mosquing of the workplace, let's say. Imposing Muslim prayer times on union contracts, forcing non-Muslim workers to lengthen their day. The Heinz Company. The Heinz Company, you know the ketchup company, condiments, has been extraordinarily generous in their accommodation to their Muslim workers. They have Muslim prayer rooms, they have Muslim prayer rugs. And what happens when you accommodate? Demands for more accommodation. They're going to be sued. Heinz is going to be sued to stop the line. Stop the line for Muslim prayer times. Now I'm going to tell you, in Muslim countries under the Sharia, they don't stop the line. They don't stop working. No, they make it up before or after. So why this? To impose Islam on the secular marketplace, that's why. The public schools setting aside prayer space. They're not doing it for Christian kids. They're not doing it for Jewish children. They're not doing it for Hindus. They're not. But they are putting aside the special spaces for Muslim prayer. And of course, the curriculums are very scary. So when Rick Perry institutes a curriculum, 9 lessons, very intense, very extensive, and doesn't issue a mea culpa, I got a problem with that. Governor Perry, are you instituting a Christian curriculum? Are you instituting a Jewish curriculum? Do not make the school a religious battleground. Now it's tricky, and this is what I get to my book. If this is happening in your school, you go in there and say, look, I don't want this taught to my kid. They're going to say, oh, that parent's a bigot. That's not what you do. For every time they bring in someone from CARE, and CARE like in Pulliup, Pulliup, CARE wanted to go into the Pulliup school district and explain about Islam. The thing to do is, if they're going to bring in an imam or someone from CARE or ISNA, or the 300 groups that were named in the largest Hamas funding trial, ICNA, ISNA, all of them. It's interesting to me that before Anwar al-Awlaki became the president of the Muslim Student Association at his university, he was a secular Muslim. The Muslim Student Association and Student Union was named as a virulent Muslim Brotherhood group in that trial as well. It's interesting to me.